You're listening to the main event with Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. on WHIP.
Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Time in the studio right now is 11:17. Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you, rocking along on a Monday. Love this song, Centuries by Fall Out Boy. They played at the Leah Chorus Center every game.
It's the intro video, man.
It gets you going. The Cherry Crusade was rocking this past weekend as Temple took down the national champions and the UConn Huskies. And now the next stop is off to Hartford, Connecticut for the American Athletic Conference tournament. It's going to be a dandy. WHIP will be on the call for Temple's first game up against Memphis. You can also watch it on ESPN2, and that starts your way on Thursday, American Athletic Conference play, but Temple doesn't play until Friday. And now the man who's the Associate Commissioner for men's basketball in the American Athletic Conference, Dan Leibovitz, is on the hotline with us right now, former Temple assistant coach as well from 1996 to 2006. Dan, welcome back to North Broad Street. I know you were here over the weekend and also down in SMU. Those freaking flyer miles must be being used by you.
Yes, good morning, guys. Great to be on, and yeah, quite a weekend of travel. Finally got a night's sleep last night, but I got in about 2 o'clock in the morning to my house.
And it was a big weekend for American Athletic Conference basketball. You had SMU winning the regular season championship yesterday in a great game up against Tulsa. Temple takes down UConn with the matchup between Will Cummings and Ryan Boatwright. But you know the expectations here that John Chaney built at North Broad Street, and it's to get to the tournament, be a first-class citizen both on and off the basketball court. This Temple team sits at 22-9, and we all look at the Joe Lenardis and the Jerry Palms. Some have them in the tournament, some doesn't have them in the tournament. Do you believe this Temple team right now at 22-9 is an NCAA tournament team?
Well, there's so much that still has to be determined. I mean, if you took a snapshot of it right now, you'd say they're on the good side of the bubble. I think they've got to do a little bit more, frankly. Clearly, we as a conference and me having Temple ties would love to say that they're in at the moment and feel great about it. But I think we all agree we want to leave no doubt.
No question about that, because SMU last year, they left a little bit of doubt, and I thought they should have got in, but then the next thing you know, they were in the NIT and ended up getting to the finals. So I think you're exactly right, leaving no doubt. So this is the second year of the American Athletic Conference. When you take a look at it from a basketball standpoint, what do you think are some of the strengths of this conference, and what do you think, as the Associate Commissioner, that you think needs to be improved when you take a look at the AAC from a whole in the basketball standpoint?
Well, I think we have some great coaches. If you look at the roster of coaches we have in our conference, it rivals just about any league in the country. And when you talk about, first of all, having a Larry Brown, that says a lot right there. You got a standing Hall of Famer. You got, in no particular order, Kevin Ollie, Fran Dunphy, Mick Cronin, Kelvin Sampson, Josh Pastner, some young guys that are going to be Frank Haith, who's a proven winner. Orlando Antigua is a great hire at South Florida, among others. I just think it's a really impressive group. I also like the fact that we're really invested in our facilities. Temple's done a great job with the Leah Core Center has always been great. They've they've done some great maintenance, I should say, and they've also, made the LED signage in the building. It looks great. The practice facility looks great, and we're seeing a lot of schools invest in practice facilities, improvements. Houston's taking a look at their arena and how it can be improved. So I think when you talk about coaches, facilities, big schools, you have a chance. You have a chance to be a major player in this thing, and obviously we're ahead of schedule, having won a national championship in year one.
Dan Leibovitz is our guest right here on WHIP Radio in Philadelphia alongside Zach Gelb. I'm Chase Sr. This is the main event. Dan, all of these games in the American Athletic Conference tournament will be televised on either ESPN or ESPN2. How important is that television deal for the American Athletic Conference to gain some exposure nationally?
I think it's huge. And when you talk about where we are as a conference with our basketball brand, shame on me for not mentioning it. It's outstanding. When you talk to any recruit, they want to know where you're on TV, and TV is really ESPN these days. And when you talk about college basketball, We're on CBS Sportsnet as well. We had a couple games on CBS National. We had one this weekend. But the ESPN exposure is second to none. We're just about every single one of our conference games is on one of the ESPN networks, and I know that's something that Coach Dunphy and other coaches in our league certainly use in recruiting, and I'm sure our fan bases appreciate it.
When you look at the AAC moving forward, how strong of a conference can this be, and what's the potential of the American Athletic Conference, Dan?
I think as we continue to grow, you have to remember if UConn and Memphis have their typical seasons, we're probably looking at 4 or 5 teams right now that we feel really good about being in the tournament. I think we'd all agree. So I think we have a chance to be a perennial 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 in a good year league. I really do. And there's a lot of talk about the Power 5, and to me, that's so much more about football than it is basketball. What we did last year, proves it, and we won a national championship. What the Big East right now is having a strong year. They're the number 2 RPI team. That has nothing to do with autonomy or Power 5 structure. This is basketball. You have a good basketball coach. You find some guys that can help you. It doesn't take 100 in basketball. It takes 5, or 5 or 6 or 7. And you have a school that supports the program. You have a chance. So I think we're going to be a major player in this thing for a long time. I do.
And for you, Dan, as we're talking to Dan Leibovitz, you had the luxury of being an assistant coach under the legendary John Chaney, and then under one of the more well-respected coaches in college basketball, in Fran Dunphy. What was that experience like for you?
Well, I actually was only an assistant for Dump for 3 days.
How about that?
He offered me a job to stay on a Monday, and I got the Hartford job on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
But they were 2 glorious days. But it's funny. They're different people, but when I think about what they stand for, they're almost the same. When you talk to them, it's always deflecting the credit. It's always about the kids. They both just want to coach basketball and teach. I watch their teams, and when you boil it all down, neither one of them ever hurt themselves with turnovers. That was a trademark for Coach Chaney and Dump's teams. I just keep calling Dump. Coach Dumpy's teams right now are one of the best in the country, not turning the ball over. And defensively, they do it differently. Coach Chaney was zone guy. Coach Dumpy's primarily a man-to-man guy, but neither one of them is easy to score on. And I see similarities. I really do. Nothing too complicated offensively. Get it in the hands of the best guys where they can do the most with it, and take your chances.
When I think of the name John Chaney, the first thing I think of is the word legend, and you got to spend an ample amount of years with him. Give me your best John Chaney story when you take a look back at your time with him on North Broad.
Well, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try to boil it down. When you say legend, to me the story is at Xavier on David West senior night, senior day, I should say. We're on ABC, nationally televised game. They were really good. They had Romain Sato, West, Lionel Chalmers, an NBA player. And we were young. We ended up in the NIT that year. That was Marty Collins' freshman year. And we're losing by about 15 and maybe less. And Coach Chaney calls timeout with about 4 minutes to go, empties the bench, and tells the guys on the bench, every single time Xavier crosses half court, I want you to foul him immediately. So I don't care what you do on offense. When they have the ball, I want you to foul them. So I didn't know where he was going with this, really. And the game goes from about a 15-point lead to a 20-point lead to 25. I think we lost by maybe 35 points if you go back and check the record. So finally, with about a minute left, I said, Coach, do you think we should stop fouling? Which took me 3 minutes to have the nerve to say. And he said, in no uncertain words, I know what I'm doing. I'm setting the stage for the tournament. We're going to play these guys again, and when we do, I want them to think it's going to be an easy game. So, sure enough, we play them in the second round of the Atlantic 10 tournament and beat them in Dayton.
How about that? That's epic stuff.
How many coaches would run the score up on themselves in today's basketball and have the confidence to do that didn't care who was watching, what anyone else thought, and actually pulled it off. That was a moment to me that was legendary.
And in the heat of the moment, to even think about a future game against Xavier.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable.
Dan Leibovitz is our guest, Associate Commissioner for the men's basketball in the American Athletic Conference. American Athletic Conference tournament play starts on Thursday. You can listen to WHIP on Friday. Coverage starts at 1:30 p.m. as Temple will play Memphis. Just talking about John Chaney, Coach Dunphy said something earlier on in the year that pretty much still to this date, John Chaney is the one that has the schedule in place from Temple from what he did years ago. You play the teams in your conference, you play the Big Five opponents, and then you try to schedule some of the tougher non-conference opponents on your schedule. When you see teams like an SMU knock it in last year, a team like Tulsa be on the bubble this year, a lot of the knock is that their non-conference schedules weren't as strong. How important is it for all the teams in the American Athletic Conference from a basketball standpoint to really schedule non-conference games that have a lot of strength on them?
It's a very good question, and it's something that this time of year, Temple's fortunate because we have calls with our NCAA conference selection monitors. We have one once a month, and we can kind of sell the best attributes of our team. And with Temple, you don't have to say anything about scheduling. No, there's no question, which is great. As a conference, we did put in new scheduling guidelines, something I worked on. We all worked on very hard over the end of the summer and the fall. I think without question, you have to challenge yourself, and you have to, within your conference, understand what's realistic for each team. The best team in your league might not schedule exactly like the team that has the least expectations. Because a team that doesn't have high expectations necessarily going into the season, if you have a complete freshman, sophomore roster, you don't think it's a year where you're going to necessarily be an NCAA team unless you get super lucky. It doesn't help you to go schedule 5 great teams and lose. Really, the RPI will tell you go win some games, and that's going to help the aggregate RPI for even the best team. So it's not as simple as just saying, hey, everybody go schedule hard. It's about winning. It's about really knowing who you can beat at a high level. But yeah, if you go out and schedule great teams, for Temple to have the schedule that they have. If you had said at the beginning of the year, 22-9 with Kansas, Duke, Villanova, UNLV, could have been Stanford on the schedule, in addition to the conference, you'd say, wow, they're going to be in great shape. And that's a credit to Coach Duffy and staff.
It's going to be a tremendous week for the American Athletic Conference. You guys are going to have the tournament in Hartford, Connecticut, and then the next 2 years you'll have Orlando. Is there a place in mind to have a consistent site for this American Athletic Conference tournament? I know when I was growing up as a kid, the Big East tournament was always in Madison Square Garden, and that was always a big event. Do you guys eventually want to narrow this down to one place where you have it for a consistent year in and year out?
We have to remember that the conference, who we are now, a lot of the people in this conference were Big East people. I mean, the people that have been here 25 years all know the Garden, and that was home for them. So that's kind of an instinct for so many people that I work with. For our conference now, you'd hope you can get to that. With our geographic footprint, it's a little bit more challenging. With the Big East, New York was perfect. It's one of the only tournaments probably ever that would sell out before the tickets ever went on sale to the public. With all the alumni in the area and schools nearby, it was just ideal. I don't know where we could really, set up shop like that for 25 years, but we're definitely thinking about it. I love Temple. I should say, Philadelphia as a possible host one day, something I think we could take a look at. But we just have to see what works for us.
Well, Dan, we appreciate a few minutes today. We'll see you in Connecticut for the AAC tourney. We'll be out there. Thanks for a few minutes. You were excellent today. Let's do it again real soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there's Dan Leibovitz, former Temple assistant coach from 96 to 2006, and now the associate commissioner for men's basketball for the American Athletic Conference. Okay, time right now in the studio is 11:31. We go from Dan Leibovitz to the next man who is also a legend in Philadelphia,
no doubt,
and that is Tony Bruno, the co-host of Innocent Bruno on 94 WIP. Tony Bruno, He'll raise your blood pressure. He'll lower your blood pressure. But we'll talk Eagles with Mr. Bruno coming up next.